So what are the signals? So let's say you're kind of like 7 months in from your, the win of the election. Okay. So you've had, 6 or 7 months post election. There's probably like a flurry of activity that happens right after the election. And then you kind of get into, maybe you fall back into some old bad habits or whatever. What are some of the signals that maybe we haven't made enough progress? What would be the signs that a company might be looking out for to go, oh man, this looks like we may have another election? What kinds of things would you tell a company to be on the lookout for?
When your employees start shutting down, okay, when they stop voicing their issues,
Mm-hmm.
when, it's just, and we hear it, oh, sometimes it's like, how are things on the floor? Are you hearing anything? Everything's going good. And then the employer says, or the supervisor manager, it's just really quiet. No one's saying anything. No one's
Mm-hmm.
complaining. That's a big sign. Okay. Because at that point, it's why am I going to voice my opinion to you, my complaints, my issues? You're not going to do anything. And they're voicing it somewhere else. So that's always a big thing, and when I talk to supervisors, managers, and they're like, oh, it's really quiet.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, ooh, okay. And then you go to the typical things to look out for, especially if you know your employees. Are they, getting together, people hanging out that usually don't hang out? You
Mm-hmm.
start seeing these little things that you feel are a little off. But again, the biggest sign is when all of a sudden everyone just goes kind of quiet and you
Yeah, and
don't
the
hear anything.
the advantage an employer has going in, in that year is you kind of already know who were the key organizers like the last time. So, and obviously we're not talking about engaging in surveillance, but you know who those folks are, and you can, they're either engaging with you or they're not, right? And so
Hmm.
if they are engaging with you, that's a good sign. If they are, not engaging with you and engaging in kind of all, the same kinds of behavior that they did the first election, that's a signal. And I totally agree. A friend of mine, he's been a leader in a company for a long time. And one of the things he says is that the worst HR and employee relations blow ups that he's experienced in his career were not loud, they were silent, right? It's when things get quiet that you've got a problem. If people are complaining, at least they're talking to you, right? It's when they stop talking to you that's an issue.
It's an issue. That's that red flag. And like you said, when you have those key union organizers, internal committee, and they're popping up in different areas that they don't work
Hmm.
in, and so yeah, you start seeing that, and that's how you know, you drop the ball and get ready for another campaign.
Yeah, or get to work. If
Yeah,
you're at the 7 month mark, there's still almost half a year left. Now, if that's happening at the 11 month mark, maybe there's no time. But
yeah.
well, Evelyn, this has been great. We're coming up on time. Why don't let's wrap up with just, what are, two or three tips or what advice would you give to somebody that's in this boat where they've been through an election, they won the election? What do you think are the two or three things that they should really prioritize working on the most?
Number one is looking at those issues that did come up, those campaign issues that came up. Again, there's some stuff that you can change, and there's other things that need to be explained. Okay, and you put those in those categories and you have those conversations with the employees. The other thing that's very important, and sometimes, after a campaign, you realize, I never thought that person would have gone to that side.
Mm,
Get to know your employees better is key. There's a reason why you thought this person would have been with you, and then all of a sudden they're wearing a vote yes shirt.
hmm.
Find out what's going on. What are they lacking? And so those are, to me, I mean, it comes down to two big things. It's addressing those issues that came up and having those conversations, and knowing your employees. Okay, the why. Why were they with that? What am I dropping? What are they missing? What am I not fulfilling for them? And those are, to me, the two really important things for you to do. And then the top one is just really make them feel like they're a part. They have a voice. And that's just the top three things, at the top of my mind, top of my head, that are really important.